When we think about the golden era of 16-bit gaming, there are a few standout titles that hit us right in the nostalgia. One of those gems is Super Turrican, a run-and-gun classic that cemented itself as a cult favorite. Released in 1993, Super Turrican was developed by Factor 5, a developer that would later gain even more recognition for their work on Star Wars Rogue Squadron. But back in the early 90s, they were carving out their niche with fast-paced, action-packed shooters that combined tight controls with top-tier presentation. Super Turrican wasn't just another action platformer. It was a perfect blend of exploration, intense combat, and an unforgettable soundtrack that set it apart from its contemporaries. While Super Turrican was based on the larger Turrican series, which originated on home computers like the Amiga, the Super NES version was a unique experience. It wasn't a straight port, but rather a refined, console-optimized adventure with smoother gameplay, enhanced visuals, and a killer sound design that took advantage of the Super ESS sound chip. Its combination of wide-open environments, unique weapon systems, and stunning audio visuals created an experience that felt fresh, even in a crowded genre. This game quickly became a favorite among fans of run-and-gun titles, and it continues to be held in high regard by retro enthusiasts today. Before we move on, hit that subscribe button and stay up to date on more deep dives into retro gaming. While Super Turrican might be best remembered for its explosive gameplay, its story set the stage for an intergalactic adventure that was as epic as it was mysterious. The tale begins on a distant colony planet, which has fallen victim to a ruthless invasion by the Machine, a sinister force bent on domination. Led by the nefarious artificial intelligence known simply as the Machine, this villainous faction quickly laid waste to entire civilizations, leaving chaos and destruction in its wake. The people of these worlds were on the brink of extinction, enslaved by the Machine's powerful robotic army, with little hope of survival. The story unfolds across 5 diverse and hostile environments, each controlled by the Machine's various lieutenants and their robotic minions. From sprawling, alien-infested wastelands to high-tech mechanical fortresses, each area serves as a battleground in Bren's quest to reach the Machine's core and destroy it once and for all. The journey is fraught with peril, as the Machine has built an army of deadly creatures and towering bosses designed to test even the most battle-hardened soldiers. What sets Super Turrican apart from other games in the genre is its approach to storytelling. While the narrative itself is fairly straightforward, it's delivered in a way that keeps players immersed in the game's atmosphere. Rather than relying on lengthy cutscenes or dialogue-heavy sequences, the game uses its environments, enemy design, and intense boss battles to tell the story of a galaxy overrun by a relentless foe. Each level feels like a chapter in Bren's fight for survival, with the stakes growing higher as you inch closer to the Machine's lair. While it might not have the deep narrative complexity of some modern titles, Super Turrican's story was more than enough to drive the action forward and keep players hooked from start to finish. It offered just the right balance of science fiction adventure, high-stakes drama, and explosive action to make players feel like they were part of an epic intergalactic struggle. When it comes to gameplay, Super Turrican stands out as a shining example of how to balance intense action with exploration and variety. At its core, the game is a side-scrolling run and gun shooter, but it brings so much more to the table than just firing away at waves of enemies. Factor 5 managed to create a gameplay experience that is fast-paced, rewarding, and deeply satisfying, with mechanics that still hold up remarkably well today. One of the first things players notice is the fluidity of movement. Bren Maguire, clad in the Turrican assault suit, controls like a dream, with responsive jumps, quick direction changes, and a set of abilities that allow players to tackle enemies and obstacles with style. The suit is equipped with a standard blaster, but the real star of the show is the multifunctional beam weapon, which can be fired in a sweeping motion, allowing players to hit enemies in all directions. This was a standout feature in the early 90s, as many other run-and-gun games had limited directional shooting. The beam encourages strategic gameplay, letting players clear out enemies that might be hiding above or below, and is a vital tool when navigating the game's larger, more open levels. In addition to the beam, Super Turrican offers a range of other weapons, including spread shots, homing missiles, and even a freeze beam. Each weapon has a specific use, and part of the fun is figuring out which one works best for the enemies or bosses you're facing. The freeze beam, for example, allows you to temporarily immobilize enemies, giving you time to either finish them off or reposition yourself to avoid incoming fire. The weapon variety adds depth to the gameplay, making each stage feel different as you swap between your arsenal to tackle various challenges. Level design in Super Turrican is another area where the game excels. Unlike many run and gun shooters of the time, which were strictly linear, Super Turrican embraced exploration. The levels are sprawling, multi-tiered environments that reward players for taking the time to explore off the beaten path. Hidden power-ups, extra lives, and even secret areas are scattered throughout the game, making it essential to search every nook and cranny. This design choice not only adds replayability, but also gives the game a more open-ended feel compared to other titles in the genre. Despite the size of the levels, the pacing never slows down. There's always something to shoot, avoid, or discover, ensuring the action remains constant. Boss battles are another highlight of the gameplay experience. Super Turrican features some truly memorable bosses, each one larger than life and mechanically unique. These encounters often fill the entire screen with danger, from waves of projectiles to massive enemy bodies, making it feel like you're going up against something insurmountable. But with the right combination of skill, strategy, and quick reflexes, these massive bosses can be taken down, giving players a strong sense of accomplishment. But it's not just about shooting and dodging. The game incorporates a variety of platforming elements that add another layer of challenge. Jumping across platforms while avoiding hazards and enemy fire requires precise timing and control, and Super Turrican nails that balance between platforming difficulty and combat intensity. It keeps players on their toes, never letting them settle into a repetitive rhythm. On top of all this, Super Turrican introduced a unique feature, the Morph Ball, a clear nod to Metroid. With this ability, Bren can transform into a rolling ball that can drop bombs, allowing him to reach new areas and take out enemies in a different way. This further emphasizes the game's focus on exploration, as many secret areas can only be accessed in Morph Ball form. Finally, there's the difficulty. Super Turrican is tough, but not unfair. It offers a challenge that gradually ramps up, with enemies becoming more aggressive and environments more hazardous. However, smart weapon usage, exploration for extra lives, and mastery movement will help players push through. It's the kind of challenge that's typical of 16-bit era games. Difficult enough to test your skills, but never impossible, leaving you coming back for just one more try. Overall, Super Turrican nails the gameplay experience by blending responsive controls, strategic weaponry, vast levels, and intense action into a cohesive and highly enjoyable package. It's a perfect example of how the best games of the Super NES era knew how to keep players engaged with layered mechanics and thoughtful level design, all while delivering non-stop fun. Graphically, Super Turrican is a feast for the eyes. The game features richly detailed environments that manage to feel both alien and familiar. From the mechanical, dystopian landscapes of the machine's lairs to the organic, hostile terrain of alien worlds, each level feels distinct, packed with color and intricate background details. The game uses a bright, bold color palette that helps it stand out in a genre often filled with dark and muted tones. This choice not only made Super Turrican visually striking, but it also gave it a unique identity, setting it apart from other shooters of the era. The game also makes excellent use of parallax scrolling, creating a sense of depth that brings each environment to life. Backgrounds move independently of the foreground, giving the illusion of vast, multi-layered landscapes, which was a hallmark of some of the best 16-bit games. This visual depth not only looks great, but also contributes to the game's immersive quality, making you feel like you're traversing a living, breathing world under siege. But if the graphics are impressive, the sound design is nothing short of legendary. Super Turrican's soundtrack, composed by Chris Hulsbeck, is widely regarded as one of the best on the Super NES. Hulsbeck was already a legend in the gaming world thanks to his work on the Amiga version of Turrican, and he brought that same level of excellence to Super Turrican. The soundtrack combines sweeping cinematic melodies with pulse-pounding, adrenaline-fueled tracks that perfectly match the game's pace. Each level's music sets the mood, from atmospheric and eerie tunes that heighten the tension and alien landscapes to upbeat, energetic tracks that drive the intensity of combat. What makes the soundtrack stand out is how well it utilizes the Super NES's sound chip. The Super Nintendo was known for its superior audio capabilities compared to its rival, the Sega Genesis, and Super Turrican takes full advantage of that. The music is rich, layered, and full of depth, with crisp sound effects that add to the overall experience. The blast of your weapons, the explosions, and the mechanical whirs of the machine's forces all sound fantastic, making every action-packed moment feel impactful. Perhaps one of the most iconic audio elements in Super Turrican is the way the music dynamically shifts throughout the game. As you progress through different stages, the music will change to reflect the environment and the intensity of the action. This gives each level a unique auditory identity, immersing the player in the world and heightening the tension during boss fights, or when facing waves of enemies. Whether it's the detailed sprites, the massive bosses, the stunning parallax backgrounds, or the unforgettable soundtrack, Super Turrican truly represents the best of what the Super NES had to offer. It stands as a testament to what developers could achieve with clever design and a deep understanding of the hardware they were working with. And it's a major reason why the game still resonates with players decades later. Super Turrican might not have reached the mainstream success of juggernauts like Super Mario World or The Legend of Zelda, but its legacy is undeniable, especially within the retro gaming community. The Turrican series, as a whole, has carved out a special place in the hearts of fans who appreciate fast-paced action, challenging gameplay, and exceptional design. While the original Turrican titles had already gained a strong following on platforms like the Amiga and Commodore 64, it was Super Turrican on the SNES that brought the series to a much wider audience, solidifying its cult status. One of the game's most lasting impacts is how it showcased Factor 5's technical prowess. They were known for pushing the limits of hardware, and Super Turrican is a perfect example of how a team can get the most out of the Super Nintendo's capabilities. This attention to detail and desire to push the boundaries of what was possible in gaming would later serve them well, particularly with their Star Wars, Rogue Squadron series on the Nintendo 64 and GameCube. Super Turrican was essentially the precursor to this, a statement piece that showed Factor 5's ability to combine stunning visuals, tight gameplay, and dynamic sound design into a seamless experience. The music by Chris Hulsbeck also became an essential part of Super Turrican's legacy. Hulsbeck had already established himself as one of the premier composers in the gaming world, and his work on Super Turrican only solidified his reputation. The game's soundtrack continues to be celebrated by fans, often cited as one of the best on the Super NES, and has even seen re-releases and remastered versions in various formats. Hulsbeck's contributions to the gaming music scene have had a long-lasting impact, and Super Turrican's soundtrack remains a benchmark for what can be achieved on 16-bit hardware. Despite being relatively niche during its original release, Super Turrican left enough of an impression to see multiple re-releases over the years. In 2008, the game was made available on the Wii's Virtual Console, allowing a new generation of players to experience the title, and more recently, it was part of the Turrican Flashback Collection in 2021, which brought it to modern consoles like the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. These re-releases have helped cement Super Turrican's legacy, ensuring that it remains accessible and appreciated by both nostalgic fans and newcomers alike. Thank you for joining us. If you liked this deep dive into the retro world of Super Turrican, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, keep questing and keep gaming.